time now for On the Radar, where we ask an investing professional what they're looking at in today's markets. We're back again with Rob Tetrault. He's at Tetrault Wealth Advisory Group in Winnipeg at Canaccord Genuity to talk about, Rob, something that a lot of viewers may not know about and may not know your thoughts on, and that's the tax-free first home savings account known as the FHSA. It was introduced last year in the 2022 federal budget.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tongue twister too, because the letters are all mixed up and you think it's TFSA, but it's actually the FHSA, short for First Home Savings Account. So I wish they would have called it the First Home Investment Account. It's a bit of a pet peeve of mine that they call the TFSA a savings account and not an investment account. So what ends up happening is individuals end up putting this in a credit union at a GIC, earning 1, 2, or 3%. If it was a tax-free investment account, everyone would be thinking, oh, I can invest this. Anyways, this account, bit of a beef of mine, but this account I think is it's very interesting, first off, but it allows us to think of opportunities outside the box. And I've done a lot of work on this. I got YouTube videos on this, by the way. If you want to follow me on YouTube, Rob Tetrault. I got a neat video on this and a whole bunch of other stuff. But the concept here is that you can contribute up to $8,000 per year, up to a maximum of $40,000 if you have not kind of owned the home in the last 4 years. So if you haven't owned the home, you're a Canadian resident, you're 18 years or older, they define it as a first-time home buyer. So first-time home buyer, you and I think, our kids or friends of our kids or nieces and nephews, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that. Obviously they qualify. And the neat thing is when you put money into this account, so you open an account with a firm like ours or whoever you're dealing with, like a TFSA, you would have a separate account for this. The dollars you put into this account, Paul, they actually allow you to, they're tax deductible, just like an RSP contribution. So you get the benefit of the RSP contribution, and you also get the full ability to withdraw tax-free like a TFSA when you're buying your first home. So it's an absolute no-brainer for younger Canadians that, are thinking of maybe at some point owning a home. Absolute no-brainer. You should do it. Talk to your financial professional. Actually open the account. Unlike a TFSA, you don't gain the contribution room just by being an adult. You actually need to open the account. So you need to open the account, put a few dollars in, and then there's also the really neat benefit for retirees as well, Paul.
What is the benefit for retirees? I'm hearing you say, I think that in the case of retirees who may have owned a home for decades and decades, they need to have sold their home and been out of home ownership for 4 years. Is that correct?
You got it, Paul. And I'll push it further. Any Canadian who's got a little bit of wealth and is able to save, that qualifies as a first-time home buyer, which means you haven't owned the home in the last 4 years, should open an FHSA. You should do it, because worst case scenario, you never end up buying a home and you've gained an additional $40,000 of RSP deduction contribution room, plus you can then roll that into your RSP down the line. So you gain that contribution room, you're not taxed, you're not penalized, there's no withdrawal maximums, there's no rules against how you pull it out. It's basically, if you go 15 years with this account or you turn 71, you could roll the entire amount into your registered account, your RSP or your RIF, and you've basically created a larger pot of registered assets. Now, there are some individuals that might not need more registered asset, and obviously talk to your investment professional about that, or your accountant. If you got a $5 million RSP, you probably don't need another $40,000. But, if you're kind of a retail Canadian that's trying to take advantage of every single opportunity, this could provide an extra $40,000. And who knows, if you ever end up buying a home, maybe with a child or with a grandchild, you're a co-owner or something like that, you could take advantage of this.
What about retirees who are 70 or 71 plus and into RIF territory, where they must be taking out their RRSP money and putting it into a RIF?
So you must close this account by the time you're 71. Right. So I wouldn't recommend this if you're 68 or 69, because you're not going to get the tax-free compound growth advantage. You want to do this ideally if you're 55 or 60 and you get like enough years, like 10 years or something like that, because you want to benefit from that tax-free compound growth, right? So it's growing tax-free, it's compounding tax-free, it's going to grow tax-free. And I would want some years on my side before I would do that. So obviously, don't do this if you're 69 or 70. But I mean, for pretty much everyone else, I do believe it's almost an absolute no-brainer.
And how does it compare to the tax-free savings account? In other words, should a qualifying person, so a person who has not owned a home in the past 4 years, if they can only direct money one place or another, should it be to a tax-free savings account or the tax-free first home account?
I guess it would depend on your liquidity needs, because obviously the TFSA provides you with that liquidity. I like the TFSA as kind of a rainy day fund. You could easily have 150K TFSA right now, and that allows you to pull out 5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand if you need a trip or an emergency or something like that. The FHSA will not allow you to do that. So I always make a liquidity plan for every client. So if you need funds, where are you drawing them from? Are you drawing from your registered account? That's not good, obviously. Are you drawing them? Do you have a TFSA or a savings account or something like that? This is really like a third option to that. You don't get the liquidity. It's really more of a long-term investment management and wealth management tool. So you lose the liquidity there. Now, you should top up the TFSA first. Now, if there's a likelihood that you're going to buy a home, I'd say top up the FHSA first, because you're going to get the tax deduction and you're going to get tax-free withdrawals. So that's a double win that we've never had as Canadians. We've had the first-time home buyers plan, which allows you to take $35,000 out, and you got to pay it back over 10 or 15 years. That's good, but it's nothing compared to this, Paul.